Do you remember the Sandman on Triple J?
Yes.
I choose to start the story now. You remember him? Yeah, I just found all this stuff online. I own a few of his books. I once gave them to an attractive girl I liked, and she gave them back and said they were just sad. which I think is a bit of a Sandman story in itself.
Hey guys, story from Joe. Hey Bill, Stuart, Mark, g'day. Got a cup of tea. That's where we're at with that. Tea and biscuits, g'day. Oh, it's all happening here. I'm a bit sleepy to be honest, but we'll get through some stuff. Give it a minute. What's happening this week? I've got steam engine bits, lathe bits, painting jobs, some mail from Bill, and a job I've done for Bill, or nearly done for Bill. There's still a few jobs to do on it, but it's not as well and truly on its way. And I'm sleepy. That's where I'm at. Where do we start? We begin at the beginning. No, we won't. We'll just start here. I picked this up. I actually this weekend I machined this. It's got a couple of plugs in there. That one of which it hasn't really. I don't know why it's got that half moon there. That's a bit strange. This one you can hardly see. Could feel it up, but you can't see it anyway. It's all nice and smooth in there. So I machined this to size. And was messing around with this because when we put this on here straight, we discover that there's not really enough space under there. Look, there's not enough space under there really. Not impressed with that. And that was a miscalculation. So really this one's kicking up here like this for the electronics box, I think. It should be really nice. Something like this on a hinge. Hey Mark. So how to do that? Because I don't want, you put some sort of a screw set thing in a hinge so you could adjust it, it'd be nice. You can make it all just one piece, and you could just, honestly, you could just cast that with the plate on each end all in one bit and machine it at a 35-degree angle or something like that. And that might still happen. They just make it all solid. But putting two screws in here to hold this on here is a bit of a pain in the neck if you do that. And screwing it to the body is a bit of a pain too. And well, it might be very nice looking at it there like that. That might be all it needs. Hey, David. So, I've been thinking about this, and I originally had a... Where is it? I sort of was going to use something like this, which is hinged, right? With some sort of a hinge screw to go through that hole and sit down there, and with a lot of spin nut on it, something like that, to adjust it up and down. Not a very easy thing to orchestrate, because you've either got to put a big hole in this plate here to clear the screw, or a big hole on the top to clear the screw, and neither of those really work. So I was messing with that and thinking about it for a week with very little actual results. But drew this up and printed it. And this might be something that works. We'll find a light around here so you can actually see. There we go, look at that. So it's got an adjustable ramp and a little round piece there. And as you push that up with a dovetail, this is over complicated, but when you move this along, like so, then it lifts it up, like so, with a screw adjustment. Needs to be more simple, complicated than that, because I really don't want this to stick out like that or move, and I'd like the wedge to move on the screw rather than the screw to move in the base. And it's also got to pull this back this way, so at some point it's got to be retained, so it's probably easier to do it here than here. That's just a thought. That's last night's itineration of this, which may or may not work. So that's my thought process on that. Don't know. And of course, if you move this wedge all the way back, like so, this sits down straight and flat. But not as convinced about this as I'd like to be. Not sure. Jury's still open on that. I may still just make 2 plates with a gusset between them in here and sandcast it up and machine it to fit that and machine it to fit the box. And have a actual solid mounting here. Don't know yet. Probably be much easier. Hey, fridge. So that's well and truly beginning at the middle, but that's my thought process. Had some thought about these two with no really outcome yet, but I have got some ideas. Just a matter of manufacturing the bits simply if I can't actually buy them. So there's thoughts on that. Did a little bit of artwork for Dan's new Land Rover doors. He's going to make it into a company vehicle. Mightn't have to pay quite as much tax. Yeah, fridge. I don't know if you've ever been to any of those places, but probably what linesmen went out there in a van, or a truckload of linesmen went out there, they doubled the population. I'm just saying. Boat Harbour or somewhere. Out in the sticks. It's on the west coast somewhere. I didn't really read. I did read, but I didn't pay as much attention to it as I could have. But there wasn't it's not a very populated area of Australia. But apparently there's a power outage. Something to do with a cable. So I made up a plate for this, which looks something like this, right? And bolted the 2 lugs on the back of this with a couple of counterboard bolts, and use that to set this up and machine the front. So that's how I did that. It's a pretty awkward piece, but sometimes you've got to think outside the box. I don't know if anyone actually had a look under here and I've seen what I've actually done, so we might take that off and have a look. If I can find a spanner. To be interesting. It'll trip down laying to impossible, but it looks like the launch panel fits it. I'll put these in here. That's going to fall off there. I'll put that there. So, just found a couple of furniture brackets that are fairly nicely made with gussets in them and all that, nice and square. They look pretty good. Drilled these ones out and I slotted 2 holes in here and put a little bit of elf cut to go around that, just to hold everything square, and the M5 screw in there. So I just bolted that bracket on between those two and set that up this way up to machine that. Did that. Don't know why there's a gap around that screw there. Maybe it's just the threads cut and it's got a bit don't think it's actually, you can't feel it in your fingernail. I don't know why that is. Might be just a Loctite line. Don't know. Anyway, fix that. And that's how that looks. Going to leave these 2 rims, one on each side, nice and shiny, polish them up, finish them up, and paint the rest Lorch green when we get a couple of screws in here for the bracket, whatever actually happens. But we want to decide that first. But that looks pretty good on there. I think that's sort of very sweet. I put some more undercoat on this, but it wants another coat of primer on it. Rub them back a bit, just so we don't have to put this down somewhere. All our spare space, I'll put this back on. And also it'll stop the oilers leaking everywhere. So, morning, Paul. So, that's that. And with a coat of Lorch green, it'll look the part and it'll look like it belongs there. But we're still, jury's still open about a hinge or whether it needs to be adjustable or whether it probably doesn't, to be honest. It might be nice, but I think about the maximum I can get there is 35 degrees, and that's pretty well exactly where it wants to be. So maybe I just make it fixed. I don't know yet. If I can draw something up that's going to be easy to machine and easy to cast and easy to put holes in and actually work, we might just make a solid one. But it's not as simple as it looks either. So that's the progress on that project. There's a little bit, but that's all we've done. Got a letter, got a box from Bill, which is really nice. For some time he's owed me a knife. Well, not owed me a knife, but he sort of, we had an agreement that he was going to send me one, and I really appreciate that. If you could jump on, if you like nice gear and you're a person who uses knives, you should jump on Bill's waiting list. It's worth the wait, and there might be one, but it's well and truly worth the while. And art's something you can't really hurry too much, so it'd be pretty nice. But this one here, it says it's not dishwasher safe. There's a note come with it on the list. It's a D2 blade and a claret ash handle, which I really like. It's a nice shape. Technically, righto, well, we'll be down with that. I didn't want to be too pushy, but I was thinking that we must be getting towards a positive budget. Bill's list to receive a knife. If you get to the top of the list in the afternoon, you're right. If it's late at night, not so much. Look at the detail down the back of that. It's a random pattern, that one, which is really nice. I really like that. This one hasn't actually got his name on it, Bill. Bill, this hasn't got your name on it. That's a bit poor. But anyway, we know where it come from. Could do without a wipe, and it's probably been used. It's probably not real clean. But anyway, very, very nice knife, kitchen knife. Too nice to use, but we will use it, promise. So that's pretty nice. But nice to have nice things. And this is my second Bill knife. My other one's probably here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. Look, you've got to dig it out from under the junk. But that's the other one. This is sort of a box cutter sort of thing. It's only got a... needs a clean. It's been used for sharpening wax pencil. Sorry. It's one of its many uses. It's only got a bevel on one side. And the idea of it was for taking the flashing off 3D prints and things, which it's very, very nice for. Can't remember what the timber is with this, but this one's actually got a B on it, you see. See that? Hey, Chirpy. I said, never mind, that's right. So I've got a couple of Bill knives, which I'm pretty lucky to have. I'm going to have to make a knife block, though, for these, so if there's going to be more of them, something we're going to have to get onto. We need more projects. So, in exchange, sort of more or less, Bill's got a hardness tester, which I suspect... Mark, we'll get to that. There's a list. You got to wait, Chirp. This is off Bill's hardness tester, this little, poor little dial gauge. It's not properly back together yet, but it is sort of back together. It needs a collet for the hand, because the hand collets... oh, my poor fingers, look at this. I don't know what happened to that today. I have to do something about that before tomorrow. Look, they're all like it. I don't know. I haven't got a clue. Don't know where that come from. But that one in particular to point with, no, that one's not good either. That one's a little bit better. I think you're just getting the detail and the light. Sorry. Anyway. This is off a Casio hardness tester, which I imagine is probably fire damaged. I'm thinking that, Bill, that might be the story. I didn't sort of ask you, but it was pretty black. So, and it was also sea solid. This is all still sort of... I've just sat this in place. But this is cleaned up reasonably well, and I think we'll live with that. I might give it a bit more of a brush around, but I think that won't be far off. And this one too, it was all that colour all over. So it was stuck, and I pulled it apart and cleaned it and put it back together. It's nowhere near adjusted yet. Works much better if you don't have it sitting on the... if we do this for a movement holder, just rough, so it's not sitting on the centre pivot. There's a bit of backlash there, which I haven't got out of it because I only put it back together the other night and haven't looked at it since. So there's some preload on it. I'll just try and get this right. See this big spring down the middle? That's what pulls the piston back to the return, right? Now, there's 2 gears in here in a rack. And a little anvil here. What have I got that's not my dirty fingernail that's going to annoy everyone? Here we go. There's a Randy Richard scribe here. Now, that's better. So, there's a little anvil here and a plunger that just pushes together. Sorry, guys. Did I zoom in? Sorry, we'll zoom out again. Let's try again. Sorry, guys. Little anvil here, and that's attached to this. And the other end's attached to this. Basically, it's a quadrant, which is just a section of gear, and that's spring loaded too. So when you push, when this lets down, this pushes this back, like so. And there's a wire stop here, and there's a wire stop here that still need to be adjusted. And it's got a pinion on this gear, and as you move this, it moves that gear backwards and forwards. Do that without scratching anything too much, see? Now, right now, it's about balance, so it sort of sits where you put it, but it shouldn't be like that. Now, there's a centre pivot, which has got another pinion here on this one, and then there's another gear that runs off this with a spiral spring on it underneath there. Can you see that? Probably not. Don't think so, but it's got a spiral spring on that gear, which is basically just a return spring gear. And these are all decent pivots. So this pushes this down and pushes this out of the way and winds the spring up. But it only winds the spring up enough that this can still return it. So it's a bit fussy. Just getting it set is a bit fussy. So that when you push this in, it kicks this out of the way. And then when you let it go, it returns back to where it needs to be. And gives you not too much bounce and not too much backlash or anything else, because it's loaded, the spring's loaded from each side of the pinion. So no matter which way you drive it, you shouldn't get backlash. And that centre pivot there, which is about a 12, 14 tooth pinion, something like that, goes through the other end, through the dial and onto the hand. That's about as clear as mud, but it's fairly straightforward. This thread was damaged. Both ends were pretty ordinary, and I've run a tap through them. This thread here is still not real good. But this was seized solid, and we had to get that out of there, so I think it'll clean up all right. Got that back in, and there's actually a little lever in. You see that? There's a lever. Oh, the lever's fallen out. Okay, that's probably why it's not working. I better put that back in. That goes through there and runs in a slot around here, and that guides it this way. And there's a spring that pulls that lever up against the side of the flat on the lever up against the side of this slot, and that's what keeps it running nice and smooth backwards and forwards. And then there's another spring on here which returns the ratchet. So these two springs hold it down this way and return it. And this little spring is just enough to enable the backlash so that when you push it in, it doesn't just so when you push it in, it doesn't have any backlash on this anvil. There's not a gap on this anvil. It keeps up. So that's sort of how it works. It's pretty straightforward. But yes, it just measures the depth of the pyramid. Anyway, that's how in most indicators work. A vernier is a bit different because you measure both ways with a vernier, but this one only measures on one end, so the backlash compensation and all that sort of stuff is very, very simple. Not much to it. And it's all nice and clean, and it's gone back together. It's had 3 or 4 runs through the ultrasonic to get the soot off it. I've rethreaded these so that this screws in and out nicely, which is actually UNF 448 is the standard for these. It's a bit bizarre. And all the springs are rusty, and I've actually cleaned them up nice, and everything's cleaned up pretty well. So, going to take that out of there before we lose it on the carpet, which is the little lever. We have to put that in properly. And you just pushed it in there. This part of the dial actually locates on here, on 2 pins. See, there's a centerpiece. This one turns on that. Right. With this, it's got a friction washer in it too. But this one turns, I've got to go there like that, I think. And the friction of this one turns this dial like this, see? So you can set this to the needle for calibration, basically. And then this piece goes on top with a friction washer and little retainers to hold it in place. And that's got an arrow there, which I'm going to colour in red. And basically you can set that to wherever it needs to be, so you can repeat it, I imagine. So it's going to work, and it's going to be fairly good. The hand's broken here, like the little collet that holds the hand in place has actually come off the hand. I might have a go at running that back on there, but I'd like to clean the hand up and give it probably some sort of finish as well. Blue it up maybe, or something like that wouldn't hurt. Something that makes it probably easy to see is important. A bit of red enamel might be as good as anything. But there's no glass on this because the front of the machine is actually clear, and these poke through the sides so that you can adjust this one and this one. This main ring is held on with 2 little spring clips in from the side. This has got a groove in it. We'll pull this off and show you. It's a groove around there. I think you can see that. Gosh, there's a lot of bits. There's a groove in there. And it's got 2 wire clips that are just like half moon shaped, really. And a piece across the middle. And 2 little half round indents in the body here, cut in. Where can I see that? There's one there. You can just see it's very thin. But the wire goes in and springs in, and basically you turn it upside down, you put this on and you put the wire in and you spring them in and it clicks in place. To get them out, you've got to pull them out the back. So there's sort of a one-trick pony sort of a thing, but I think it'll go back together all right. And we'll put the back on it, but we'll get it running properly. It's a whole lot better than it was. I'm not sure it's exactly where we want it to be, but there's only about that much travel in it because it's only for measuring the depth of the hardness pyramid mark. So there we go. But I think it'll be all right. Fairly confident that'll go. How do you know if it's calibrated right? Very good question. But there's no real calibration. The calibration's built into the dial, I guess, as far as the hand moving however far, because the gear ratios are all fixed right. Let's try and explain this. A calibration event is setting the top and the bottom parameter so that the range is right. I guess that's how range calibration works on something like this or any machine. You've got a chart plotter or something like that. You set the force required at this end and the force required at this end, and somewhere in between it'll be proportional. It's a measurement of the indentation left. So this doesn't have those sort of things. There's no real way to calibrate it because your gear ratios are all fixed and the length of your quadrants is fixed and your dial's marked accordingly. So when you put it back together and you push this however far, this moves the right amount. So if you've got a fixed, I guess that the correct way to do it would be to properly test or have a third party test on a piece of steel that's been marked or is a certain hardness, and then bang it, and then you set this dial to 0 and see what it reads off here, and that'll give you some sort of indication, but there's no real other way to sort it out. There's no actual calibration on this indicator, I guess. Bill's right. It's sort of it calibrates itself if you've got a known sample. That's what I was trying to say. He's put it in 3 lines. He said just the right amount to drink, and I haven't had anything yet. So you've got test pieces of known hardness, and if they haven't been through the fire, then they'll be fine. But you should be able to set, with a combination of setting this and setting this mark on the outside, you should be able to set this so that yeah. That's true. But anyway, that's a project I worked on a bit this weekend. I pulled this apart and cleaned it and put it back together, and it's nearly ready to. It needs some adjustment. It's just that backlash adjustment. You've got to get that sweet spot between. There's only one tooth either way on the spring, really, between when it won't return it back because the backlash spring is too tight, and when it has movement in it because the backlash in the gears. So somewhere in that sweet spot, you just got to find that so that moves in and out nice. I've got this running pretty nice in these 2 tubes, and it was stuck, so I'm pretty happy with that. You've got to fix that hand at some point. And the other thing is that if it doesn't return to 0, you work out how far out it is and you put the hand on in a different spot. It's as simple as that. That's kind of where we're at with that. So, need a little puller for that. Anyway, it's all back together. And it helps that probably you've got some idea how it works. But it's a fairly simple thing. And it was pretty seriously stuck. That's one of the things I did this weekend. That was so black that he didn't even know it had marks on it, to be honest. It couldn't read any of that much muck written on it. So pretty happy with that. I think that'll be a good job, Bill. I think it'd be a good machine and pretty useful thing to have in your inventory. Tea and biscuits, I spent about 3 hours on this, which is way more than I would have if I'd done it at work. To be honest, I probably, with the gear that we got and the right equipment, I would have had this pulled down and put back together in about an hour, something like that. But at home, it's a bit of messing around, bit of a job, because nothing ever goes quite right, and you've got to mess around and find the right bits and pieces and sharpen screwdrivers, all those sort of things. Anyway. No, I don't fix indicators. That's another thing. So just in case you were wondering if that's something I do and might be keen on doing, it's not. But this one's 1935 and it's pretty simple and it's well made and it's designed to be serviced, and I think it's going to be pretty nice. There's no progress on this engine at all, like either the 3D print model or the full size one. Nothing, nada, zilch. Didn't happen. I did spend half a day driving around on Monday, probably more than half a day driving around looking for things, and one of the things I was looking for was a 1/2-inch Whitworth button die, and no one has one, so I'm going to have to mail order it. What else did I do Monday? I've sanded back and completed just about. It's ready to put back together. It's got a decent coat of paint on most of the sides. The new coat of paint on the paint box. So that'll end up with some sign writing and pictures and stuff on it in the next. There'll be some graphics on it in the next week or so. That's another job. No, you got nothing else to do. Hey, Nigel. So that brings us to the next thing. Who's got a new video up? I think Bill was actually filming, which is pretty exciting. There was one from Nigel. It was quite a good video, really. Oh, well, they're all very good videos, but not just another die grinder build. I think you heard that here first. But anyway, that's what the series is called. And you should go and check out Nigel's video. Go Create My Hobby Machine Shop. Very, very nice build. It's coming together. He's got all the gear selectors in. He's got most of the body done. So it's pretty awesome. Looks great. Fridge has bought a Land Rover. I'm going to put you down for a minute and I'm going to put this stuff away because I don't like leaving it here on the bench. I noticed that, Nigel. It's awesome, but it's a really, really good build, and it looks like it's going to be a great machine. There was a video from Chirpy. I'm making a leather fillet plane, and one on pattern making, question and answers. Very good video from Chirp, so you should check them out if you're interested in casting and pattern making. They're always good, Chirps. Chirpy's videos are good, a bit underrated as far as a YouTube presenter. Mark's got his shed up. I don't think there was any updates on that online. I don't think there was an update from Tea and Biscuits on the new engine, but we are living. There's a watch come from Peter that I put a battery in and got sorted, and dropped that off at a mutual acquaintance with some other stuff, and he's going to post that back. And for the same guy, Casual Engineer on YouTube. He's a very philosophical YouTube presenter. Drop that off to him. and a knife for him as well. So hopefully he has a bit of a shout out on Bill's knife, because it's very nice, and I think he was pretty taken back with the gift. And as anyone would be, you've got a Bill knife. It's a pretty nice thing to do. Anyway, it was a pleasure to take it to him. Got lost doing it, but that's cool. Now, I'm going to put this down while you contemplate whether kookaburras are weird. I saw the pictures. The shed's almost done, Mark says. And I'm going to bring back we're going to move some stuff. So you're there on the bench. Anyway, you still waiting? No worries, I'm back. So, Land Rover doors are a bit of a pain in that, because they're only fairly small, really, by the time you put the detail in the top and the stupid door handle and everything in it. And because they're so far off the ground, the door handle's sort of in the middle of the door, which is a bit of a nuisance. So this is a rough sketch, right? It really is a bit rough. It's not the right phone number. If you're looking for Leeds Engineering, don't ring this one. Yeah, that's a good effort. Based on the Heinz logo, not really actually. It's going to be a bit more Art Deco than that, with wider uprights and probably fairly straight uprights through here. Sort of a Art Deco, sort of a strip and fairly narrow sideways. And we're going to put this one straight across here, or even going to taper it around on a bit of angle there and a bit of angle there, so it's wider at this end and this end. In a yellow rather than red, with probably a red shadow on it, just to make it spring, because it's on dark green. And we'll probably do this in a silver, and we'll get it in the middle when we do it, but I just sketched it in pretty quick in some sort of a basic truck scroll here, and something like this at the bottom, don't know yet, and a bit of a accent line around it like this to bring it in, tie it all together. So that's the thoughts of the Land Rover doors. That's a job. Apparently it's a paying job, so I'm pretty happy with that. I like that. But I think that's got potential. I think it's going to look a lot better than that. And I will sketch it out on I've got some new tracing paper, which I think is going to be the answer after a bit of contemplation. So I'll sketch this out nice, and we'll transfer it across, and we'll get them both done. But that's sort of what I'm thinking for that. Whether we'll have a look. I don't know about this line either. You won't get any answer on this number. Well, you might, but it won't be from, you're lucky enough to have that number. I just drew it out there pretty quick. I did this in about 10 minutes. And I will get something a little bit more, sort of serious by next Wednesday probably, and show you. Anyway, it's cool to see the process a bit. But that's one of the jobs. Put my Instagram moniker on the back of the van. Everyone probably saw that on social media. I just plugged it, and it took me an hour probably. Never even took me that long. it looks pretty good. I reckon it's still got a lot of the red mark outlines on it because I'm not going to clean that off until the paint dries. But I did about 20 minutes on it, I guess, on Monday morning, and about another 15 minutes or something on it on Tuesday morning. So it didn't really add up to an hour. It was a pretty quick job, but it's just got could probably show you my other phone because I need to get some sharing software, and it's on. We're onto it, but it hasn't happened yet. Yeah, so just on the back of the fan. That's pretty straightforward. We've got more sign writing planned, but that's all we're going to do for now. On the back anyway. I'm going to wrap a couple of panels on the side before we get into it in a similar colour to what I've done with box. Hey, Paul. Which is that blue, the light blue. I really like that. That's the front door there. That colour with red and yellow on it and stuff. So that's what's going to happen. There's a stripe around it. Just cut and do the top panels. Run a stripe around it to break it up so it doesn't look like it's just got blue on silver. And I've got some thoughts about that. I've sort of got that sketched out too, but we'll see what happens when that happens. It's going to cost me $300 or $400 to wrap the panel, so it mightn't be a priority just now. So that's another thing that we've been on to. But the box is all ready to go back together and it's all got a decent coat of paint on it, I think. So pretty happy with that. Anyway, so that's sort of what's happened. Just a wrap for everyone to come in late. This is on. It's machined out. We're still working on a tilt mechanism. We've got a couple of ideas. I sort of prototyped this up and drew it up, which has got a hinge and a ramp and a sort of two ramps in it, basically, which is a fairly easy thing to make. It's a bit of messing around, but it's something that we're well within our capabilities. It's got a little dovetail there for the wedge, which sits down low enough for that ramp to sit down in the groove. And some sort of a screw adjuster. I don't think that's going to be a thing. I really don't know. It was fun, but I'm not sure about it. So we struggle to see how she manages these. I think she kicks you out to the shed with a case or a carton. I think that's what happens, Bill. Oh, Dan, yeah, I know that's what she does. She kicks you out the shed with the carton. Anyway, let's progress. Still thinking about this. These things take time. One day we'll have this running. Still thinking about some sort of a gear switch on that for the, here we go, for the two belts. Those things take time too. Haven't got an answer for that yet. Still thinking about a pattern for that guard around there. And haven't got an answer for that either really. But apart from that, the guard's on. It looks all right, I think. It needs a bit more filler in it and sand up and coat a top coat. And basically 2 holes to bolt the thing on. We'll see. So that's what happened. A milk crate for which? Oh, a milk crate for there. Yeah, for the back there. Yeah. We'll make something a bit nicer, and then I've sort of got it drawn up. Still looking for a button die. Haven't got a clue where to find one yet, but we'll grab one online sometime, maybe next week. The window of opportunity's gone this week, I think. Pay some bills and stuff. Bill's dial indicator's back together. There's still a sign there that hasn't moved. I haven't sold anything actually. A bit disenchanted about that. I've got about 47, 50 something listings on Marketplace for Hornby tin plate, which is really nice, all of it. But none of it's moved. No interest at all. So I don't know. I might have to relist some of that with nicer pictures and stuff. And lower prices. I don't know. Anyway. My van art's going to have basically this guy. Well, basically this guy, because I like this guy and he's pretty easy to paint and he's nice. And he's easily, I like him. Anyway, we're going to flip this in mirror and we're going to put knees on him for Bill and shoes the right way around. And we're going to have him holding a tin of paint and a paintbrush. And we're going to put that on the side of the van and then traditional sign paper and painter or whatever on this side. So that's where we're thinking about that. But this guy's for sale. I really like this actually. And if it doesn't sell, I won't be upset, but the money would be nice. That's where I'm at. This might go down in the steam shed. This one I've done some sketches. That's about where I'm at with that. There's to be some sign writing on this. I've done some sketches and I've had a bit of a think about how I'm going to do it nicely. But it's one of those jobs that you've got to be in the mood for. There's two ways to get in the mood. It's last minute panic and the other one is actually be in the mood. So one weekend I'll just sit down and do it. Knife from Bill, we said that. No progress on this little engine. It's sitting there, the head's back on. Probably should make a bit of an effort on that at some point. That's another thing I'd like to do in all my spare time. I was looking at this book. If anyone's really interested, it's probably dragged on and rabbited on for long enough. But this is belonged by George William and then N.W. McCormack and then W. William Harold Ed Nicolai in 1880. It was published in 1878, which is pretty awesome. Principles of Machine Construction. Being an application of geometrical drawing for the representation of machinery by Edward Tompkins. Author of Machine Construction and Drawing and edited by Henry Evers. LLD, I don't know what those initials stand for. Author of the Steam Engine and Navigation, etc. This is volume 2. I don't know where volume 1 is. I'd like volume 1, but this is volume 2. It's the plates by William Collins, 1878. If anyone's got volume 1 of Machine Construction by Tompkins, I'd be very keen to have a look at it anyway, let alone I'll buy it off you or something. So, pretty awesome actually. It's got a page on scales, and then it misses a page because they're prints, and how to make ellipses and cycloidal curves, all that cool stuff, and then it misses a page again. Projecting up shapes, chimneys and truncated cylinders and things like that. Stuff we all learned in high school. I guess we learned it in high school. I'm not sure they teach it in high school anymore. We did all this in cartridge paper and made them all up, and some of them in tin. Doctorate of Law, of course. It's who you would expect to have writing a machinery book in 1878. How to draw up screws and things, spur gears. But we keep going. There's a lot of machinery here. How to draw gears in mesh and all that sort of stuff, and isometric and all that stuff. Some pretty cool stuff. Pedestals for bearings. Very similar technology to our store bench actually. Ain't much different to that. Screws and worms, stuff like that, but we'll get into good stuff in a minute. Drawing screw wheels and gear, or helical gears. It's pretty cool. There's not very many people know how to do all this work nowadays. And then we get into the major drawings and layout and stuff. Is Robertson's valveless engine. If anyone knows anything about Robertson's valveless engine, that looks pretty cool. Not any real clear drawings about it, but it's there. I think it's a twin-cylinder oscillator or a single-cylinder oscillator of some sort. But it must be an oscillator. But I don't know how that works. 4 horsepower horizontal engine by Appleby Brothers in London. So there's a complete set of drawings for that. If someone wanted a model engineering project, it's all there. Probably never happened in my lifetime. Bolts and nuts, a screw cutting lathe, a headstock for such. Self-acting slide, and screw cutting lathe, all the details. Cross section of the lathe, if you wanted to make one, 1878. Shaper. Milling machine. Horizontal boring and servicing machine, that's what that is. Example of a drawing for the Smith. But here's a 8 horsepower Davy Paxman vertical engine and boiler, which 8 horsepower is a big vertical engine. And a fairly big boiler. That's all the parts for it. And the drawings, I don't think there's any dimensions on it, but it's probably all to scale. So if you had one dimension, you'd be able to do the rest. 1.5 inch to 1 foot scale. It's the drawing basically. Three inches to 1 foot on this bit, 1.5 inches to 1 foot on this one. And all the governors and stuff. So it's a pretty awesome little book. And slotting machine. Steam hammers. There you go, Mark. That's what you need in your new shed, is a steam hammer. Here's the drawings. You get the castings done. I'll come and give you a hand to put it together. More steam hammer stuff. Some good drawings on steam hammers. And I think there's one left, which is the pair of 6-inch double action pumps, vertical pumps there, with a nice central column. It's very sort of almost Victorian, this, with a piece out here for the crosshead yokes. Hold this up, and then there's a swivel piece on here that runs on a pin on the flywheel, on the gear, which works as a flywheel, I guess, a crank. And then pinions drive that off a fast and loose pulley. And double acting pumps on each side. So this is pretty cool. Lots of cool stuff in this book. But I was just reading it and I was thinking, if anyone had volume 1, which would be basically the how to and sharpening pencils and everything else sort of book. This is just the appendix. I'd be kind of keen. Anyway. Machine Construction by Tompkins. There's no almost Victorian. Yeah. 1878. But even the book plate stamping on this is really nice. And someone went the trouble of embossing it in gold. I don't know, I think that's embossed. It might just be printed, but I think it's embossed. Pretty nice, and there's at least 3 previous owners' scrawly copperplate writing in it. W.H. Ed Nicolai in 1880 bought it, and then George William got it at some point, and N.W. McCormick had a bit of a go of it too, so they must have all prized it enough to lend it out. But anyway, I think that's cool. But yeah, in saying, if anyone wants a project, I've got boxes of this sort of stuff. You know that. You say, hey, look, I'd like a project. What have you got? And I'll send you. I'll scan something for you. That's how it is. Anyway, all stuff that I was going to do and I haven't really got to. I'm probably going to get an early night because last night I was way too late trying to 3D print these bits to have something to sort of have a think about, because while it's nice to have it all CAD'd up and to be able to see it in 3D dimensional CAD and stuff, it's very nice to actually print it and see the logistics of how it's going to work and how it's going to fit. If I was going to do this, I would put this bolt all the way through and, try and get some light here, and restrain this head in this end here, that's part of the case, and then put a thread all the way through the wedge, so that turning this screw, which would be flush with the Allen key or whatever, would move this backwards and forwards. And then put a slot through the middle of this, a 3mm slot through the middle of this, so it's got 2 separate ramps, and bolt that on separately in steel. On shape mark, there you go. ONSHAPE. And that way, put that thread come all the way through there and dissect this or bisect it, and it is still shut okay, and the bolt would be captive, it wouldn't hang down and look nice and neat and tidy. Probably. That's the thought process behind it. Making that captive in there is pretty easy, because if we make that so that this hole here is the same size as the head and counterboard, then this lip here will actually block the side of the bolt up, so it won't actually come out. So that's probably all we need to do there. It is a bit overly complicated though, because by the time you put cast this in brass, this bottom one, and screw it on, and then make a steel wedge and cut a dovetail in it, etc., etc. And then make this one in aluminium or brass and machine it, and then make a steel half round piece to go on here and bolt that in place and put hinge pins in it. And then if we make it properly, it's not going to be stiff like that, it'll be soft. So I was thinking to put a little spring on here with a clip behind here and here, so that it holds it together like that, so that when you screw it in, it forces it apart on the spring and then closes it. Way too complicated, to be honest. I mean, it's nice, but it's complicated. Take care, David. I'm dragging this on a bit, sorry. It's no more complicated than any other bits on here, but we'll see. It's probably overly complicated and we don't need anything like that. But that's the only idea so far that I've got that really works. And it's been all weekend going around in my head trying to design something up. Anyway, I might call it anyway because everyone's getting sick of this. Appreciate you all tuning in. Appreciate those of you who make the effort to actually upload videos and to provide a bit of content to watch and someone to chat to in Discord or whatever happens. And online and other platforms, it's really awesome to catch up with everyone. And look, if you've got nothing to do and you say, hey, look, let's see what Edmund's up to, usually I've got time to chat. Anyway, be kind to each other. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll have some more updates next week. But there's a lot going on at the moment, so I'm not sure whether they're going to be updates to these projects or something else. Snoozes are pretty universally good. Anyway, take care. Tea and biscuits while we're on the job, because I'm meant to and I never. There's that lamp. It's got a brass front, needs a clean, and brass name. It's got a handle on there that's fixed. So it's got a light in a window on that side and a lens in that side and a spring-loaded thing to stop it bouncing around because there's a bit of weight in it. Model probably doesn't need that. But is it polished brass inside? No, I think it's just plain tin inside. It's got a reflector. We can see that. I think you can see that's got a reflector. It's a bit sooty in there, so I'm not going to take it apart. But there's a reflector on the actual lamp, and that whole thing slides out. And you can set the reflector and push it back in. So that's how that works. That's got a chimney on top. These are going to be electric for the long term going forward because they're pretty pitiful light and a lot of messing around. And you've got to have a pretty dark night before you can even see if they're working. So basically you've got to strike a match and go over there and see if there's actually anything happening inside. Anyway, be kind to each other. More soon, guys. And we'll keep you posted. Keep us posted with updates too. Like to see what's going on. And I'm out.